The Fox News Christian pastor, I don't know if they have like a chapel in like Fox News headquarters or something that he ministers over, but Fox News Christian pastor Rovert Jeffres says that resisting police authority is resisting God. Again, this is on Lou Dobbs on Fox Business News.
Well, Lou, first of all, the idea of sanctuary by a church is a complete myth. Churches don't have that ability to do that, to harbor criminals. Law enforcement, if they wanted to, could go in any place and take a criminal. But what this church is doing is wrong. And Lou, the reason they're doing it is because they don't believe the Bible. The Unitarians threw out the Bible years ago. But if they did believe the Bible, they would know that Romans 13 says law enforcement officers are ministers of God sent to punish evildoers, and to resist law enforcement is to resist God himself. No, I'm not talking about condoning police malpractice, but those cases are few and far between. Most police are doing the right thing, and the Bible says to resist them is to resist God himself. And I'll tell you, at our church here in downtown Dallas, our city's out of control, trying to defund the police. We're handing out yard signs to our members that says, defend, don't defund the police, because we know we're on the right side of God and his word when we stand up for law enforcement officers.
That is so funny.
Honestly, that's the best defense of the police I've heard.
It seems dangerously close. Defend the police sounds dangerously close to defund the police, that it might just actually spread the message more. And also, like, do people really want to have to defend the cops? Like, who besides just like basically fascists in this country want to like think about I'm supporting cops today? Like,
bootlickers, utter
but
bootlickers, and people who are afraid of them, like Bill DeBunglio.
And look, I'm not a biblical scholar, but he cites Romans, some chapter in Romans talk about law enforcement being good. Like, I believe Jesus had some issue with Roman law enforcement at some point, unless I'm mistaken.
Yeah, Jesus was Antifa, don't you know? Even I know that.
Like, or at least it was Occupy. But yeah, I don't know. I think. Go on.
Oh, I feel like I stepped on you again.
Oh no, I was just going to ramble on how I think it's depressing that the only kind of Christianity that people see is horrible and horrifying. But
well, yeah, I mean, this is what we've spoken before about, all the issues with white evangelicals, and how when you're talking about this phenomenon of white working class people voting against their own interests, it's mostly them who are doing it. And I actually looked it up after the show when we were talking about it before. It's not Catholics. Catholics are pretty partisan in their behavior.
Well, the thing about Catholics is you have to separate those by ethnicity, because like non-white Catholics are pretty liberal. White Catholics are where you start looking more like evangelicals.
All right. Well, it's mostly the evangelicals still who are doing it. And that's like, this goes back to some of the critiques that we've had of the way that this religion operates in this country, because, you know, you could say, oh, well, religion is culture. It's part of the superstructure. You want to change the ways religion manifests. You have to change the material base for it. And I feel like that is only true most of the time. I think the relationship between the material base, what's going on in economics and, you know, the physical world, and what's going on in the cultural sphere, there is a feedback effect from the cultural sphere that eventually achieves a force and operates on its own, and should probably be dealt with in some way. I don't know how. It seems like it's pretty out of control, but like, you seem like you have something to say.
Well, I was just going to look at our creation myths, right? Like, you have Adam and Eve, which is like, that apple is God's, don't touch it. Right? Like, and listen to the man. And then I've heard like some Native American creation myths, like one, for instance, is they're in some sort of like underworld, and a hunter emerges and like kills a deer, and then the bounty of the world like that brings everyone else up from the underworld. So like it's a more communal like ownership. This is all ours, and like actually like participating in this is how we emerge, as opposed to we did something bad from the start by eating like the fruit. And like apples, the apple of my eye, right? Like apples were a very elite fruit for a while. So it I mean I
feel like I'm going to get in trouble with Sam for saying this, but apples are not even that good.
Yeah, apples are, I think, overrated a little bit. With caramel, they're fine. But
you would,
yeah, as long as it has
think
candy
that.
on it.
Yeah, you need something candied on that. But
is that
what?
how we get you to eat broccoli? Just dip it in.
I actually like
sugar and
broccoli.
candy.
Steamed broccoli. I love broccoli. I'm a big broccoli guy.
It's a good vehicle for sauce. But yeah, back to the cops are God thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we can all point out the various problems with that. Primarily, the First Amendment, separation of church and state, et cetera, et cetera. That shouldn't be a reason why we have to respect the cops, right? Because I don't have to recognize your sky guy. I can resist him all I want because of a little thing called the Constitution. But once again, that is a liberal defense. The Constitution is not as powerful as people think it is, and we have exactly as many rights as we can take for ourselves. So I don't think we're ever going to disprove this guy with facts, logic, and reason, right? The only thing we can do is defeat him, and I don't think we're going to convince anyone who already believes the things that he says that he's wrong and we're right.
I agree, although I think the funny thing about him and this sort of line of conservatism is, and how backward looking it is like it reminds you why 200 plus years ago they had to fight for like republicanism in France and stuff like that, and for like constitutions, because there were people that were basically just like, no, we don't need any of that. Like, this is God's representative. What are you talking about? Of course we're not going to, like, we can't author a document ourselves, because otherwise God is going to strike us with lightning. I mean, it is. I mean, that's the scary thing about these guys, is they are just like neo-feudalists, and like they liked the thing they liked about feudalism is like the Vatican could control governments easier.
The divine right of kings. That's literally what they're talking about here. So you want to talk about the four futures and how every future you can see glimpses of it in our present. This is the neo-feudalist future popping up to say hi.